Good morning, everyone. This is Curtis Hawks, Chief Marketing Officer over here at IMES, and I want to thank everybody for joining the webinar today. We're going to take a deep dive into, I think, one of the more challenging aspects of sales, which is objections, and how do we handle those, and what are some of the best practices to manage that. Before getting into that presentation, I did want to take a couple of minutes to talk about some of the additional resources that IMES has here available to our agents. So first up is our new producer bonus. As you can see there, we've got a variety of tiers there. And how this program works is when you first get contracted with us and start producing business, you generate points. And you can cash those in at any given time. And you can see that we have different tiers there of things that you can qualify for, whether it's marketing support, trips, cash, gift cards, you name it. And so I would encourage you, if you've got questions on that or you're new to IMES, reach out, talk to your sales director over here. They're more than happy to chat with you about that and what options are available for you to cash in on. In addition to that, we've got our IMES Business Builders. First up is our Referred Producer Program. This is a great way for those of you that work with us. If you know of an agent that you feel like might be a good fit for us, or maybe you know they're not quite happy with their current IMO relationship, send them our way. Not only will you get a $50 bonus when they first get contracted, but then on an ongoing basis, you'll earn additional dollars on their production. Nothing gets taken out of their pocket. We take care of all the service, and so it can be a great way to generate some additional revenue for your business. In addition to that, we've got our marketing reimbursement program. So you can see there that for every 100,000 of qualifying index annuity premium, you can accrue $100. And then on the life insurance side, you can accrue $200 for every 100,000 of single premium life and $200 for every 10,000 of life target. And again, if you've got questions on that, reach out, talk to a sales director over here. That number is 800-255-5055. Next up is back office support, and I'll just briefly touch on this, but what I would say is IMES was founded almost 40 years ago, and a cornerstone of who we are is service and making sure that we're helping the agents that we work with to succeed, help save them some time, and help them to be more productive. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't tested our service out, I would strongly encourage you to do that. One of the additional ways that we're able to provide a high level of service is through our IMES portal. There's a variety of resources on the IMES portal, whether it's getting forms, learning about marketing, getting training, education, all of those types of things, and including our sales resource library, which literally has hundreds of point of sale pieces that are compliant on any topic that you could think of, ranging from annuity basics or how does a 401k work, all the way to loan regime, split dollar, and everything in between. And you just need to be contracted in order to access that. In addition to that, technology is a big theme for us. And so we do integrate with all of the top e-app solutions out there, including Luma, Firelight, iPipeline, Sunfire. And so you can do all of your e-applications right there off of that IMES portal. And if you have questions on that or how to go through that, just give us a call. Talk to a sales director over here. Number is 800-255-5055. In addition to that, we've got our creative services department. I think some agents might not necessarily even be aware of the fact that we actually have an in-house staff here. So we don't outsource any of that. And so whether it's something like a business card or web design, or you're trying to run a social campaign, or you want to put together additional collateral, we've got a great team over here. And I think one of the key benefits is that they just specifically work in the financial services space. So you're not using some third-party firm that maybe works in other industries. You've got a team of people that understand and know the best practices for marketing in the financial services spectrum. And so if you've got questions, or I know we're at the beginning of the year here, if you're not quite sure what your marketing strategy should be, take advantage of our complimentary marketing analysis process. And this is where we sit down and go through what your goals are, what does the business look like today, how are you currently marketing, and then what is the right combination of activities for you. And so you can reach out and request that from your sales director. That number is 800-255-5055. In addition to that, we've got I.M.S. Wealth Management. We set up this RA, probably going on 8 or 9 years ago. And a big reason for that is we certainly have seen a trend in the marketplace where agents are wanting to do more comprehensive planning. And so we've developed this for that type of agent in mind. In fact, I'll go ahead and I'll launch our first poll here. But I.M.S. Wealth is a great solution for somebody who they're doing some annuity business, they're maybe doing some life insurance business, and they want to add that AUM aspect and have that high service component and support attached to it. And so if you're not currently happy with your existing RI relationship, definitely check yes. Or if you've been thinking about getting your 65 and you're just not quite sure how to do that, definitely check yes as well, and we can help you with that. So I'll go ahead and close this poll down here, and we'll keep moving along. Next up are Life and Annuity Academies. We go throughout the year and we're spending time focused in our business. In fact, many of you today are here because you want to spend some time working on your business. And that's really what the Life and the Annuity Academies are designed for, is to take a couple of days out of the field and spend some time working on your business, looking at what are the most current marketing trends, annuity trends, life insurance trends, help to develop your practice. And so I would encourage you, and I'll go ahead and launch our next poll here. If you have interest in that, definitely check yes. We are working on our first dates. In fact, we just came off of our Ascend kickoff meeting, which for those of you that attended that, I'm sure you saw a lot of great information. If you weren't able to make it, you can actually still log into that portal and be able to watch the presentations. We did record all of that, but if you're looking for a live in-person training, we are going to be kicking those off here probably in the next 2 to 3 months. And so it is kind of a first come, first served basis, and we get a lot of interest in it. So I would definitely encourage you, if you do have interest, to check yes there. I'll go ahead and get this closed down here. We'll keep moving along. Next up is our Trek to Quebec. So we're very excited about this. We're still in the heart of qualification. You can see that runs through June 30th, and it's going to be an amazing event. We've got an amazing venue, location, etc. And so if you've got questions on where you stand from a point standpoint, you can either log into the imsinc.com portal or reach out, talk to your sales director over here. That number is 800-255-5055. But we're looking forward to seeing you at this event. Lastly, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn if you aren't already. We do post on a daily basis on a range of topics, and so it's a great way to connect with us and see really what's going on in the marketplace. So I'll go ahead and get this switched over here. So with me today, I've got Matt Gill, and he is the founder of Agent Consulting and Educational Services. And, we spend a lot of time, in fact, you see a lot of content from I.M.S. Discussing marketing and product solutions and all of those types of things. And that's all important. But I feel like equally important is when I'm in front of that prospect, what I say and how I phrase it can lead me down dramatically different paths. And so we feel like it's important to make sure that we're bringing experts into the mix here on our trainings who can talk through what are those best practices. How do you set yourself up for success when you're running those appointments? And so, Matt, I know you've got a busy schedule. You've got your own private practice that you run as well, but I appreciate you taking some time with us this morning to dive into a very important topic.
It might have been on my side, but anyway, now that it's fixed. So I was just saying, I'm sure everyone on here has lots of other things to do today than just spend time on this webinar, although I know this is very important. So I'll just jump right in, and just as a matter of introduction of my road through this industry, on the screen there is kind of a quick history for me, for those of you on this webinar that don't know me. But I started in this business in 2008. Prior to that, about 6 months before that, I had no idea what a fixed indexed annuity was. But when I got in this business, that was my big focus. And I did dinner seminar marketing. And for the first 10 years of my career in this industry, all I did was dinner seminar marketing and in-person appointments. And then in 2018, as Curtis mentioned about the Series 65 license, I ended up obtaining my Series 65. I didn't do anything with it at the time because I was so focused on doing the seminars and writing annuities. But in 2020, as we all know, COVID-19 kind of hit and shut down the country and the world. And all of a sudden, there was no seminar marketing and no in-person appointments. And I was really left kind of spinning and reeling from that. But we put in a lot of work and a lot of effort. Great partnership with A.C.E.S. Boy, they rolled up their sleeves and jumped in there with us and really helped us figure that out. And today I'm more excited about my future than ever before because we have transitioned to a more digital business, more webinars, more Zoom meetings, e-apps, things like that. But what I found through this entire process is no matter what you do, how you meet people, whether you're seeing 50 people a week or 50 people a month or 5 people a week, it doesn't matter. You're going to get objections. And one of the key things we always need to learn to do in sales is how to overcome these objections. Now, my experience isn't just since 2008. All I've ever done in my grown-up life career is sales, and it's going on close to 40 years now that I have been in sales, and lots of different things, everything from door-to-door type of sales where it's kind of a high pressure sales pitch and you got to close on the first meeting, to very professional sales that is a long sales cycle and everything in between. But one of the things I've noticed is objections are kind of the same, so we think about, why do people object? Whatever it is we might be presenting to them or recommending for them or selling to them, doesn't really matter. There are some basic reasons people will object, and they're listed on your screen there. And lack of need is one of them. They don't feel like what you're talking to them about solves their problem or meets their needs. Lack of trust, that's a big one. You have to build credibility with people. There is an issue with that. Fear of change, people are hesitant to change, hesitant to switch. They like kind of what they've got going on. Information gap. We feel like, maybe from our side of the table, we think we've given them all the information they need to make a decision, but where they're sitting, from their side, they need more details, more clarification on benefits. Maybe it's decision-making power. We're actually talking to the wrong person, or we're not talking to both people at the same time. A big one for us in our industry, of course, is competition. Many people we meet with already have an advisor that advises them on some financial things. Perceived value, they don't see enough value for what you're proposing compared to the cost. I want to talk about that for a minute. Most of my career up until 2020 was very heavily focused in this business on indexed annuities, fixed indexed annuities. And when we think about compared to the cost, I do a lot of coaching and consulting with advisors and agents, and sometimes they'll say, well, what do you mean by that? Because there is no cost to an indexed annuity. They don't pay anything. And cost doesn't mean price. Cost means, what do they give up to have the product or service that you are promoting to them? And there is a cost to indexed annuities, and that cost is liquidity, it's access, it's time commitment, that kind of thing. So they need to see enough value compared to the cost that they are giving up, even if that cost is not money or financial. Some of these we can't really do much about, like, for example, negative experiences. Maybe they have made a previous decision with a person that they view to be similar to you, and that decision didn't work out. They thought they trusted that person. They told them one thing, they didn't deliver. And the further they got into that, the worse it was. So they're hesitant because of their previous negative experiences. And a big one for us, of course, is lack of urgency. From our side of the equation, there's always urgency, right? We want to get this done right away, and we want to move on to the next thing and help as many people as we can. But for them, there is not a lot of urgency to make these moves depending on the situation and maybe the focus of your business. So when you look at this, why do people object? I'm sure there are other reasons, but these are the big ones that I've seen over my career and that we see through our research. So when I think about this, man, that's a lot to overcome, right? So if you joined today on this webinar hoping that there was a magic phrase or a certain saying or a way that you maybe wink at the exact moment when you say something to someone that it just diffuses all objections, well, this webinar will be a disappointment to you because that's just not how it works. But we do know some things that can benefit us. One of the things we know is it's a new world, and we know what doesn't work anymore. You know, I mentioned I've spent about 40 years, almost 40 years in sales. And, you know, I've spent my fair share of time with people that might remind you of someone that you see on the screen there, of that person on the screen, where everything is gimmicky and salesy and almost a little sleazy feeling, you know. And I've been to plenty of sales trainings, plenty of programs I've gone through where they want to teach you a gimmicky trick on how to overcome objections, maybe trick the client into thinking they really don't have that objection by this slick language that you might use. And, you know, that might work for some things in today's world. But remember, we are in a professional industry, a respected professional industry that you should be proud to be a part of. So be professional and represent yourself and the rest of us with a professional manner. It's important for our future. So overcoming objections to me isn't there are two ways to think about that, I guess. And the previous way that you saw on the last screen, some of the people I know like that, their method is they don't want to really ever touch on objections or bring them up. They want to use as much slick talking language as they can, and hopefully the client or prospect will just never ask. They'll never say an objection. And then if they do, you come back and answer that objection by isolating it, confirming it, overcoming it, and closing the sale. And to me, that's outdated, and it doesn't work as effectively in this professional industry. I believe overcoming objections actually starts with your very first sentence you speak to that client. They are going to be listening intently. They're going to be trying to figure out, can we trust this person? Are they only interested in their interest? Are the things they're saying to us always slanted toward us doing what they want us to do, no matter what, even if we don't think it's in our best interest all the time? They're going to be intently listening for that kind of stuff. Your first impression matters. So be prepared and get it right. Get that first impression right. That's so very important. And it's little things that should go without saying, but when we get the first impression right, we talk about trustworthiness. One of the things that make people trust you is if you are accountable and if you show up on time every time. So, I have lots and lots and lots of clients, and sometimes I've met with clients over the years, 20 or 30 or 40 times over their career throughout the times, of being my client. And if it's a meeting where I'm going to their location, their house, I can tell you I have never, ever been late to a client meeting except one time when I was literally stuck by a train in the client's town and couldn't get to the other side of town to get to them in time. I called them to let them know, and I was 3 minutes late. They were so appreciative that I took the care and the time to let them know that I was going to be 3 minutes late. I know some people will feel like, I told them I'll be there around 2. So if I get there at 2 or 2:10 or 2:15, that's okay. It's not okay, because what people want when they're dealing with someone in a professional manner is they want you to be on time every time. I'm 10 or 15 minutes early to every appointment I have, but I never go to their house that early if I'm meeting them at their house. I wait till a couple of minutes before, and I've had countless clients say to me when they open the door, man, we could set our clock by you. You're on time every time. And when they say things like that, that's a measure of trust. That's a measure of them saying this person cares enough about the details and enough about us and they respect our time enough that we can be on time. So that's just a small thing, but be prepared and get that first impression right. Okay, that's important. So I want to talk about, what does that mean? How do we do that? Let's focus for a minute on our mindset as an advisor. What are we thinking? Whether we're going to meet with the client or they're coming to our office location, what's in our mind before we meet with them? Because sometimes that can come through. Clients have a pretty good, I don't know how they do it, but they have a pretty good way of measuring and kind of analyzing what your true intentions are. So you need to make sure your true intentions in your mind and in your heart are to lead with being a helpful resource. That's my primary function all day, every day. I want to help people. I want to be a helpful resource. Some days that means I talk to people that I do not profit from financially, but they profit from me informationally. They get good information, they get helpful resources. It benefits them, and I'm a helpful resource. And if I do enough of that, I know that it will come back to me, whether it's through that client or someone else. So don't lead with trying to find a sale. Don't lead with, oh man, I hope these guys have a bunch of money. Lead with being a helpful resource. Understand that you need to control the flow of information. Now, I don't know who all is on this webinar today or what your primary focus of your business is, but for me, my primary focus is financially related. It's always going to be about annuities, some life insurance that we use for planning, and of course, the managed money aspect of my business. But control the flow of the information is very important, because my system is I rarely ever do business with a client on the very first meeting. There's usually at least 2 meetings, sometimes 3, depending on the size of the case and the depth and detail of the planning. But in all cases, in my first meeting, I know my primary function is to be a helpful resource and control the flow of information. What I mean by that is, let's say your focus is indexed annuities, and in your first meeting, you have a client say to you, well, I'm really disappointed in my current advisor because I don't like to lose money. And I told them that, and they have all my money in the market. And every time it goes down, I lose money, and I hate that. And I wish there was a better option for me where I could not lose money. Well, most of us know the exact answer for that. And if we don't control the flow of the information, we turn our first appointment into a selling appointment. And all of a sudden, the client sees that and they feel that, and that's not good. So what I think we need to do in those scenarios, even though we know what they want, is we control the flow of the information, because I don't want to start overcoming objections in the first appointment. I don't want to start selling or product pitching in the first appointment. My primary focus and goal of my first appointment is simply to secure a second appointment if that's appropriate. So I got to control the flow of the information. And I do that in that scenario, like I just mentioned, by saying things like, I completely understand. We hear that from a lot of clients. There are some advisors out there apparently that just don't understand how to add the appropriate amount of safety into somebody's portfolio. But I want you to rest assured, there are some really good options available out there. And I'm going to do some research to find out what would be a good fit for you, what would be in your best interest. And I think you're really going to be happy about what I can put together for you when we get back together on the next appointment. That's how I control the flow of information and set them up for the next appointment without telling them everything about what I want to tell them about in my first meeting. Now, let's assume you've done a good job on your first appointment, everything's gone well, and you're ready to move into the next one. Little quick sidebar, if you seem to have some issues on your first appointment, through my coaching program, I actually have a topic that we talk about, the perfect first appointment. And we go through exactly what to do in a first appointment, what to say, what not to say, how to act, how to not act, just how to set up everything you want for that second appointment. Let's pretend you already did all that, and we're on to that second appointment, okay? Well, let me back up. Let me talk about the client mindset for a minute before you meet the first time. So we know what your mindset is going in now, helpful resource and all that. But you need to understand, no matter how you met this client, however they were told about you or you found out about them to get together, They really don't know if you are trustworthy or not yet. They are concerned that you'll be high pressured and only focused on selling them something. And as we all know, sometimes they already come up with predetermined objections. We used to talk about that in the seminar business, where people would come to the dinner meetings and they would say to themselves ahead of time, no matter what this person says, we are not scheduling an appointment. Don't do anything. Don't get together with them. Sometimes that happens. That's okay. Your job is to overcome that and diffuse that. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing you should do is set the proper expectations with them. On the screen right now has a couple of things that I say to set the proper expectations so they know what we're going to go through in our visit together. Remember, some of their automatic concerns are that you are going to try to sell them something. It's going to be high pressure. You're not going to care about what they really want. You're there to push your agenda, and you're going to want them to make a decision that day. I diffuse all that in the beginning with those couple of statements that are on the screen today, and I say them just like they're written. As we go through the warm-up process, everybody does the same thing with clients, but then once we get down to the business part, I say this: look, I don't have anything pre-prepared where I can say do this or do that or to make any recommendations. We don't have a cookie cutter program. And I don't know what your situation is yet, or if I can even be a helpful resource to you or not. So today, what I thought we would do is just visit, get to know each other a little better. And through those conversations, if we discover any areas where there might be recommendations that are in your best interest, then we will simply schedule another time to get together and discuss those recommendations in detail. Does that sound good to you? And every client every time says, yes, that sounds great. Now, I told you my primary focus is to schedule a second appointment. I just told them that's what I'm going to be looking to do, is find reasons to schedule another meeting. And they said, yes, that sounds good, because that took the pressure off of them for today's meeting. So now on to the second appointment. We'll assume in the first appointment, you should have done all the things on the screen. You should have asked meaningful, purposeful questions, not just questions to hear yourself talk, but meaningful, purposeful questions. You should listen more than you talk. You should have taken detailed notes. You should have understood their needs and desires. You should have told your, what I call, setup stories, and I'm going to share some of those with you of mine today. You should have prepared them for the good news that you're going to be bringing back because you think you have good answers for them. You should have built some trust and credibility, although you cannot fully build that in the first meeting. There's an old saying in sales, you can't fully build that in the first meeting, but you can destroy that in the first meeting. Rarely does someone decide if they're going to do business with you in the first 10 or 15 minutes of your interaction with them, but they will decide that they won't do business with you in that first 10 or 15 minutes. And we all do that. I did that myself recently. We did a remodel of our kitchen stuff in our house, and we had a few people come over and give us quotes. And there were a couple of people that basically, the way they presented themselves and how they spoke to me and the way they were, the first few minutes, I knew even if they're the cheapest bid, I'm not using that person. So you can lose trust and credibility really quickly, but it takes a long time to build it. And hopefully you will have left them with a great impression, not a good impression. Lots of people leave good impressions. You got to be above that. You got to leave a great impression, and they have to be looking forward to your next meeting. Okay. So let's say all that's done and we're on to that second appointment. In between the first and second appointment, you need to over prepare. I work with agents and advisors a lot of times that they don't spend the time preparing that they really should. You need to be an absolute expert on what you're presenting and recommending. And when I say be an expert, I mean be an expert on the benefits, not just the features. So what that means is the feature is how it works. The benefit is what it means to them. So I'm going to give you an example. Through my coaching program, I sometimes have asked advisors and agents to tell me how they explain confinement riders or waivers, terminal illness riders or waivers on indexed annuities. And I want you to just think about that for a minute for yourself. How would you describe that? What would you tell them about it? And I've even said, make sure you focus on the benefits. And a lot of what I hear is the features. And so what I mean is this: for a confinement waiver, for example, they'll say, well, the benefit is that if they are confined to a nursing home or a care facility, then the surrender charges are waived and they can draw their money out. That's the feature. That's not the benefit. The benefit is what it does for them on the inside, not the physical thing they can do on the outside. So the benefit of a confinement waiver would be not that they can take their money out if they have to go to a nursing home, but during that time when them and their family members are going to be so focused on making sure you get the right care in the right facility at the right time for you, you can have peace of mind knowing that you don't have to worry about being able to access your money to afford it. Because if that happens, we will be here to help you and help your people that are providing you your help, your kids, your beneficiaries, your heirs. We will help them through the process so that you can have peace of mind, fully access your money, and focus on what it is you need to be focused on at that time. That's a benefit, not a feature. Same thing for a terminal illness waiver. People will say, well, the benefit is if they're diagnosed with a terminal illness, they can take their money out. No, the benefit is, Lord forbid, if something happened and you now feel like your life is going to be shortened, you can have the peace of mind of knowing you can access your money without a bunch of hoops to jump through and use it for whatever you want. Maybe you want to take that trip of a lifetime that you've always wanted to take. Maybe you want to seek treatment in another state or somewhere else, some other kind of treatment. That money will be free and liquid for you to be able to use for what you need in one of the most important times of your life. That's the benefit, not the feature. So it's those types of things that you need to over prepare for when you are talking to clients. You need to believe in what you are recommending. I have worked with agents and advisors who have said to me they would never put their money in an indexed annuity. Well, I don't know how they're selling them then, or why they're even recommending them, because if they don't believe in them, it's hard to recommend that and transfer that belief to the client. And I spend a lot of time in my coaching program talking to people about learning the language of success. You know, it's not knowing the words. I know people that have a lot more knowledge than me, but they can't say their knowledge. They can't turn it into words. They can't communicate it in the way that motivates the person they're speaking to take action. It's not what you know. You can study and study and study and study all the features and all the facts. Facts tell, stories sell. You need to know what to say. You need to learn the language of success for whatever focus of business that you are spending your time on. So back to this real quick about why do people have objections? Lots of reasons here. Like I mentioned, a couple of these, there's not much we can do about, negative experiences, lack of urgency. Those are hard ones to do. Decision-making power. If you haven't gotten yourself with the right decision maker, then you can't really overcome that. The rest of these we can overcome. And I want to talk about a couple of these that have been real personal experiences for me. So this fear of change, the third one down. The first couple of ones, honestly, I don't feel like we should be having a lot of problems with. If you are doing the right things, you should be building trust and gaining credibility. Our industry is a credible industry. These products are credible products. The need, you should be able to be solving their needs depending on what their needs are. But when we hit that fear of change one, that's a big one, because there are, especially the age group of folks that we work with, largely that retirement age group, they are hesitant to switch to a new product. I have a client who's been a client of mine for now about 12 or 13 years. But the first, it was probably maybe a year that she would continue to say, well, I'm still thinking about it. And we would talk, and it was on and on and on for months. And finally I said to her, Vivian, are we ever going to do business together? Because it seems to me that this is just a decision that keeps getting kicked down the road. And I just wanted to ask, what's the real reason that we're not helping you with this product? And she said, to be honest, Matt, it's that I don't like to change. People my age don't like to change things. And just by me getting to the real objection, which wasn't that she needed to think about it, that's what she kept telling me. Oh, I'm still thinking about it. It was that she was afraid of change. And then I could address that and we could talk about it and I could build trust and I could build credibility around that objection. And she's now my client and has been for a long, long time. So there are ways to isolate these objections to make sure that we get to the correct one. But this is a lot to overcome, all these objections here, right? So what I would suggest is that you think about all of these objections and put yourself in their shoes. This is one of the best ways to overcome objections. Put yourself in their shoes. Think through every aspect of what you are proposing to them, every aspect, and be in their shoes when you're thinking about it. If you were 75, if you were 78, if you were 62, whatever that age is, based on their life circumstances, their other assets, their income, whatever it might be, put yourself on their side of it. Think through every aspect and anticipate what they might say based on their situations. What would you object to in their situation? Then you need to develop meaningful, reasonable responses to their objections, not gimmicky phrasing, not something to try to trick them into saying yes, but something that's meaningful and reasonable. Now, I said in the beginning of this, if you logged into this webinar to get a, like a catchphrase that was going to work for you or some kind of magic bullet, that's not what this is about. I'm here to tell you, being good at overcoming objections takes a lot of hard work and a lot of preparation. So you need to put in the work and you need to be overly prepared and you need to test your objection responses, both on clients and on other people in your life. Somebody who is a truth teller to you, we all should have truth tellers in our lives. And if you have a truth teller in your life, spend some time with that person, explain to them what you're doing and go through, and these are the things people object to. Here's why they object to it. Here's how I explain what they should be thinking or how to overcome that objection. Tell me what you think about this. Does this make sense to you? And you might find that what you're saying makes sense to you, but it doesn't make sense to anyone else outside of your brain. And you might need to reshape how you're stating your objection responses. You need to build stories around those objection responses. And here's the key. You have to tell your stories around those objection responses before they speak that objection into reality. If you wait for them to speak the objection before you ever address it, it's almost like they feel like they caught you. Like it's almost like, I bet you didn't think about this, and they threw this objection out at you. And now you're on defense. You're on your heels. You have positioned yourself for an uphill battle with that client. If you get in front of these objections and you speak about things before they even think about it or as they're thinking about it, that's one way that you build credibility and trust. And it's one way they know you're thinking like they are and that you are in this to help them, not just to make money from them. Okay. So in short, the best way to overcome objections is to reduce them or eliminate them before they are ever even spoken. Now, I've spent a lot of time talking about that, but we all know no matter how good a person is, I don't care who you are still going to get objections. So let's get into what do we do when we actually get these objections because we weren't able to reduce or eliminate them all. Well, when you get an objection, you need to let them state the objection completely. You need to hear them out, listen to them. When you're listening, you need to be calm. Try not to show any sign of stress or, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to lose this deal, or, I thought they were going to say yes and now they're giving me these objections. They can't, if they pick up on any of that, you're probably dead in the water. Listen calmly and actually hear what they are saying to you. Sometimes I work with advisors and agents who tell me about something a client said to them and how they responded. And what I'm hearing is they didn't even respond to what the client said. They just responded to something they wanted the client to be thinking. And you got to hear what the client is saying and respond to that thing. Make sure it's specific to them. Determine if it is a real objection, like the example I gave for my client Vivian, who she was giving me the objection that is the standard objection for everyone. I need to think about it, right? The I need to think about it objection, sometimes is real and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is a mask for another objection that they don't want to tell you. It's much easier to say to someone, I need to think about it, than to say, I just don't know if I trust you yet. Or what you've said to me doesn't make complete sense and I need to verify it because I don't know if yet you are a person I can believe without verifying. So sometimes those objections, they don't need to think about it. They need to do something else. So we need to determine if this is a real objection. And this part was something that was so powerful to me when I learned this younger in sales. Someone said to me, a sales person I used as a mentor said to me, once someone tells you no, if you're just trying to change their mind, you're wasting both of your time. And I said, well, isn't that what we do to overcome objections? We've got to change their mind. And they said, no. Once they've made a decision that based on everything you've told me right now, the answer is no, you're not going to change their mind. You're not going to change their mind by trying to talk them into it. You're not going to change their mind by twisting their arm. The way you can do that is by providing them new information to allow them room to make a new decision so they don't feel like you changed their mind and you talked to them into something. You provided new information. Maybe I haven't shared enough with you about it. Maybe I forgot to tell you this part. Maybe we need to go back into this other feature or benefit that's so important to you. Provide new information to allow a new decision. And one of the best ways that you can determine if the I want to think about it objection is real or not is schedule another meeting on the spot. Because if it's a real objection and they really are considering it and they just want to think about it, to be honest with you, that's a fair point. I mean, these are big decisions these people are making. A lot of times this could be for their life savings or a huge portion of their money that they have spent their life working and sacrificing and saving. It's not something they're willing to make a decision on in an hour or two sometimes. If that's the case, you can schedule another meeting. You can develop some language around that. And I'd be happy to help you with that if you want to take advantage of some coaching with me, some language on how to schedule that next meeting. But if you can get that next meeting on the books, it's probably a real objection. They want to think about it and you're going to come back and talk to them about it. But if scheduling another meeting is, oh, well, I don't know if we can do that. And we're going to be out of town for a couple of weeks and our daughter's getting married. You know what? I'm going to call you. I'll call you when we're ready. Well, I hate to tell you, but you probably didn't hit the real objection. Then they're not really thinking about it. It is the fact that they don't want to tell you no. And that's the reality sometimes, and we can't always overcome those. However, I think you need to have some purposeful stories prepared and ready to use that are well practiced and focused on your objective. You need to work these stories into the conversation as naturally as possible. And if I can stress anything on this webinar, it is learn to be a good storyteller. We all know people who are good storytellers, and we could listen to them all day long, And then we know people who are not good storytellers, but they still like to tell stories. And boy, are we looking for the exits once they start telling their stories, It's just painful sometimes. So you can learn to be good at anything that you practice. Learn to be a good storyteller. I help people with that through my coaching program. Find your own resource if you don't want to utilize me. Learn to be a good storyteller. It will change your career. A couple of stories that you can use, and I know we're running short on time, so I'll wrap up here, but a couple of quick stories that you can use, stories of mine that I'll share with you. One of them is a magic wand story, and this will help overcome the objection of, I'm not really sure whether I am interested in safety enough in my life and in my financial life to pay the cost of an indexed annuity, surrender charges and things like that. So this magic wand story I tell in my first meeting a lot of times. And that story is when we're talking about for the client, are they more focused on safety or are they more focused on growth? And as you know, when you ask people that in the various ways that we ask that, many people will not really be able to give you an answer. They will say, well, I want both, I want safety, but I still want growth, or I want growth, but I don't want to lose my money if the market goes down. So I say this, when I asked another client about this one time, he told me an answer that's very insightful actually about this and helps a lot of people along the way. And here's what he said to me. He said, Matt, the way I think about it, I guess, is this. If I had all of my money piled up here on the table in front of me today, and you had a magic wand, and you waved your magic wand over the top of that money and it doubled in size, it really wouldn't change my life much. I mean, I'm not going to go out and buy a big yacht or a mansion or move to another state or anything like that. It would probably give me some more peace of mind, but it's not really going to change my life. But money piled up on the table here today, and you had a magic wand and you waved it across the top of that money and it was gone or cut in half, man, really changed my life. So I think safety is more important. And every client I ever tell that story to says, yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. So sometimes we need to help shape, their thoughts, help them get to the end result thought that they're going to get to anyway. And that is that safety is important in their portfolio. I finished that story by telling them part of my duty and responsibility with you is to help you determine which is more important, safety or growth. So that's why we share stories like that with those clients for the magic wand story. Now we can come back to that later when we are addressing surrender charges. By the way, surrender charges, number one objection to indexed annuities. If you think through that, if you could offer someone everything that an indexed annuity does, and the only thing you could change is it's fully liquid every day. You could take all the money out any day you want. Why wouldn't every person do that? Because they could try it. And if they didn't like it, next week on Tuesday, take your money back out. Next month, take your money back out. So surrender charges are the big stumbling block. Learn that, understand that, build stories around it. One of the stories I use for that is one of the more powerful stories I use, is my 4 aspects of money. In the 4 aspects of money story, I tell them as we're talking through things, I say, when we think about money, and we've met with thousands of clients over our career, and what we've determined is there are 4 aspects of money that people think about, and only 4 things that people think about when they're making a decision on their money. And they're not in any particular order, but here are the 4 things. And I tell the clients, please let me know if you have something different. But these are the 4 that we normally see. The first one is safety. They think, if I do this with my money and things go wrong, how much could I lose? The second thing is growth. If I do this with my money and things go right, how much could I gain? The third thing is fees. If I do this with my money, how much is it going to cost me? And the fourth thing is access or liquidity. If I do this with my money, how can I get to it or access it when I need it? And so, I say this exactly this. I hold up my 4 fingers to the clients and I say, if there was a product or a position that did all of those things perfectly, it gave you guaranteed safety, top tier type of growth, 0 fees, and full access to your money every day you wanted it. And every time I say it like that, clients start to giggle and nod and smile a little bit. They realize that sounds unreasonable. And I say to them, unfortunately, in the financial services world, that just doesn't exist, because if it did exist, everybody would put every dollar into that one position. But the reality in the financial services world is that you will typically trade 1 or 2 or 3 of those things for the other 2 or 3 things that you're trying to get. For example, your Edward Jones account that you showed me, or that we talked about, or that you mentioned. For your Edward Jones account, you have full access and liquidity. You can draw that money out any day you want. And you have good growth potential because it's linked to the market for growth, depending on what you're invested in. But you're trading safety because you can lose money when the market goes down, and you're trading fees because you're paying fees just for them to manage your money. Even when the market goes down, you still pay fees to them. So it's my duty and my responsibility to help you determine which of these 4 things are the most important things to you, so that we know which ones you are willing and that it is appropriate for you to trade so that you can accomplish the other things. Now, I set that whole thing up as a setup story because later I'm going to revert back to that story and the rest of that story when I'm actually overcoming the objection of surrender charges. And the reason the surrender charge is there is the access or liquidity. That's the thing they're going to have an issue with, is the access or liquidity. They're not going to have an issue with safety. They're not going to have an issue with zero fees. They're not going to have an issue with reasonable middle ground growth. They're going to have an issue with access or liquidity. So you've got to be prepared to overcome those. Okay. So I know we're wrapping up on time here, and I want to end just by saying, if anyone on here feels like they need more of this or would like to have some more conversations or like to go a little deeper in how to overcome some specific objections or how to build your setup stories, you know, however, whatever it is that you might want to talk about, how do I overcome them already having an advisor without throwing dirt on that advisor? How do I outshine them? You know, all these types of things. You want to learn the language of success. I do have a coaching program and consulting program like Curtis mentioned and like I mentioned earlier. There's some information on the screen about it. The thing I would say the most to you is many times I meet with advisors and the agents who say, well, I just rise to the occasion. It seems like every time I get in a situation, I just rise to the occasion. And I will tell you that there's a famous quote from thousands of years ago that says, we do not rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. So if you're not putting in the hard work, when you get $1 million case or a $5 million case or a very well educated financially, you know, prospect or client, you need to be extra prepared for that. So if you feel like you need, you know, some stuff like that, please make sure to reach out to me. Let me know. We can talk about my coaching program, and you can always access that through Curtis and the guys at A.C.E.S. Curtis, that covered everything I had prepared to cover for you. I hope I didn't take up too much time, but that is everything. And I just want to, you know, thank everyone for their time today.
Well, really good stuff, Matt. I'll launch this as well. I know Matt put his QR code up there. If you want to have one of the sales directors reach out to you to help with facilitating getting in contact with Matt, I've had the pleasure of learning from him and knowing him for a number of years now, and I always pick up just different little things that I can incorporate even into my sales process. And I think one of the key things there is just those little things that you do throughout the course of that meeting that can make a big impact. And so, Matt, I appreciate you taking some time with us today. For everybody that joined us, thank you for taking some time out of your day. I'm sure you saw a lot of value with it, just like I did. And again, I'll get this closed down here, and hope everybody has a good rest of the sales week. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks again, Curtis. Thank you, everybody.